Okay, let's take a second here and talk about the hottest topic in real estate right now, which is the NAR lawsuit, the National Association of Realtors lawsuit, and how it impacts the effects of real estate moving forward in commissions and how buyers, agents, and brokers and listing agents and brokers are getting paid. Everybody thinks the sky is falling, but is that really happening? Let's take a close look at how everything is transacted in real estate when it comes to commissions. So when a seller is ready to sell their home, they contact me and they say, hey, Dan, let's set up a time to meet and talk about everything. I go to the seller's home, we sit down and we talk about the home, we talk about the current market conditions, we talk about the things that I offer as a broker in the market in marketing the home, creating photos, 3D virtual tours, floor plans, video tours, etc. How we're going to put the home out there in the market, how we're going to help them negotiate the process through the offers that we receive and through title insurance and appraisals and inspections and closing and all the things that happen before we get to closing. All that stuff is discussed with the sellers. It's also discussed how commissions work. How am I getting paid as a listing broker, and how is the buyer's agent's broker getting paid on the other side, that the person that's helping the buyer and bringing the buyer to the home to help you sell your home. Here's how it works. The seller and I will talk about the commission structure and we'll agree on a commission. Now that, keep in mind, is not a fixed rate. There is no set standard rate across the board between brokerages. It's determined between my experience as the listing broker and what I'm offering to the seller and potentially what a buyer's broker will be bringing to the table. So we have that discussion with the seller. The seller says, hey, you know what? I'll agree to a 6% commission. Now keep in mind, I'm just using that 6% as a figure for this purpose. It's not a set fixed rate. That 6%, the seller and I discuss, do we want to take any of that and offer a portion of that to the buyer's broker, the agent bringing the buyer in? We might say, hey, let's split it. I'm going to take 3% for helping you market and sell and process the transaction with you on the seller side. Let's offer the other 3%, half of the commission, to the buyer's broker, the buyer's agent bringing in that buyer. So we're sharing the commission. That's one option. So a second example could be that the seller says, hey, I'm willing to pay 4% commission. That's what we agree upon, is 4% commission. The seller says, I'd like you as my listing agent, Dan, to get paid 3%. And I'm willing to offer 1% of that broker commission to the buyer's broker, the buyer agent that's coming in. That's an acceptable agreement also. The seller and the listing broker can agree upon that is another example. A third example could be the seller says, hey, Dan, I would like to pay you as the listing broker 3% commission. And I agree to that. But the seller says, hey, I don't want to pay the buyer's agent commission. I'm not offering anything in towards the buyer's broker or the buyer's agent commission. The buyer would have to handle, their end on their own and handle the buyer's broker on their own. That is another option that is available to a seller. Currently, if a seller and listing broker say they are not going to offer a cooperating commission towards the buyer's broker, we are not able to list your home on the MLS. That's one thing that could potentially change in July of 2024. Keep in mind, any of these three quick examples that I've given have always been an option for a seller and a listing broker to negotiate. It's not like this is new or something's changed recently. The only thing that is potentially changing in July 2024 is that the MLS, the multiple listing service, will no longer be posting what that cooperating percentage or amount is that we as the listing agent broker would be providing or offering to a buyer's agent broker. That will no longer be displayed on the MLS potentially in July of 2024. That's not solidified yet, but that's the change that's looking to come down the pipeline. So let's say I'm representing the buyer and I'm helping the buyer purchase the home. They found a home they love. We took a look at it. We love it. They want to put an offer in on the house. It basically is creating an extra step for me. I need to make a phone call to the listing broker and ask the listing broker, have you and the seller agreed to contribute all or a portion of the commission towards the buyer's broker side? And they will let me know if there is any or if there is not any. I need to then default to the buyer's agency agreement that I should already have in place with my buyer, because that's one of the first things you do is you make an agreement with the buyer when you take them on before you start looking at homes and say, hey, this is how I work, and this is how I get paid. And if we find you the house, I'll help you navigate through the process. First of all, we're going to look at a lot of houses, and I'm going to help you get through the purchase and inspections and appraisals and title work and closing. I mean, all the steps that it takes to get to closing. It's not just finding the house. There's so much more involved that agents do. So I need to have that structure in place with my buyer before we go out and start finding homes or putting offers in, because there's a good chance that maybe the seller and the listing broker did not offer to compensate my side at all and the buyer side. What this boils down to is really pretty simple. Commissions have always been negotiable and will continue to be negotiable depending on the skill set of the agent that's assisting their client. So really the only little change that's happening is potentially in July, the MLS will no longer be sharing some of that information. It'll be between the agents to have that conversation. So the last tip in this video is, when it's time to buy or sell, make sure that you are meeting with a few different agents. Don't just pick the first one, but meet a couple, understand the differences. What is the experience level? What kind of marketing am I getting? Is it just a few photos that you're throwing online from your cell phone, or am I getting great photos with 3D virtual tours and 3D floor plans and maybe some video and a QR code and a nice post sign? I mean, just all that stuff makes a difference. If you take the time and have those conversations, there should be no confusion on the service that you're getting and what you're paying for.